So next up, in the line of, can we get more efficient at dispensing? Just by way of introduction, I went to a few of the automation companies and I said, look, do you have any good kind of case studies that I could have at our event? I think about dispensing robots really as such, and it maybe tells more about where the situation is. Nobody was offering anything at all. I saw Mike presenting at the pharmacy show, and I asked Mike, would he speak at our event? And he'd already told us, he already refused us actually before that. He said, I don't do public speaking, I don't really like doing it.
I hate it.
But I thought it was very good. I think it's a very good story, and it's always much more valuable, I think, particularly as his supplier isn't here today, to hear it from the horse's mouth. Mike's in the same shoes as you. He's got 15 pharmacies here in the London area, face similar sort of problems to you, and how to make his business more efficient. And he doesn't, I'm sure, wouldn't say that he's got tons of money to throw at robots. So there'd be probably a very good reason why that would be. So I'll hand you over to Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike. So my name is Mike, but everyone calls me Mike for ease. So yes, our automation journey. So we've got 16 branches, but 2 of them sit in a separate limited company, so we can only put 14 through our machine at the moment. So it's our aims when we first looked at automation. And there's two journeys we had. One is the whole pack dispensing journey, which we did a while back, and we've got the blister pack journey. So this is looking at the blister pack journey, which I'm talking about now, is we wanted to try and improve patient safety. I was getting lots of queries coming from blister packs, tablets jumping, all of these kind of things when people are making the blisters. And in the pharmacies, you had all the trays lying around and you're trying to do your normal dispensing around that. And we had one pharmacy in particular which is really small, and the GPC inspector says you really can't do trays here anymore, you need to take them away. So we had to start looking at different ways of working. At that point, started looking at robotics and saying, how do we go down the robotics route, and how do we consolidate our filling in one location or multiple locations? So we started with packing for one pharmacy, the one the GPHC inspector said we wanted to stop the packs at. We took it to one of our own pharmacies and started doing it there, and it worked, to be fair. Then some of the other pharmacies heard the story. They said, can you please pack ours, because we've got a bit of excess, because we've got holidays and all this kind of stuff. So we're manually packing those as well. At the same time, I was looking at robotics and looking at what's out there. So we looked at several of the machines. I think there was a Sinman machine out there. There's the VBM, which I did go for in the end, and the robotic machine. Each one has their own merits, to be fair, for what it does. It does what it says on the box. If it's a robotic machine, it'll do what it says on the box. If it's a SynMed, it'll do what it says on the box. And VBM, exactly the same. But the most important thing for me was, how do I free up staff time? How do I reduce my pharmacist costs, knowing the way the NHS was going? Because we tried to go to the model where you had 2 pharmacists in every single store to support services and all of that kind of stuff. But then when they started doing the cuts and everything, we had to scale that all back. And how do you speed up the process? Because every time I used to go into a pharmacy, I used to stand there watching patients waiting on the counter, and the staff in the back doing a blister pack or a prescription and not really seeing what's out there on the front. And as we all know, it's more about being on the front now than in the back. So, and the next bit is also important to say, how do we change with prescribing, going from 7-day prescribing in some areas, which we're still lucky to have in London, in some areas of London, to 28-day prescribing, because then the cost becomes very difficult to bear, if we think about it. So the way I decided on it was, I did the desktop review. I went around looking at machines in the shows which were out there. Robotic came to me a couple of times, first of all with the pouch packs, and I said, no, this is not what I want a blister pack machine. They brought that one back to me, and I said, no, this doesn't work for me because it doesn't check it properly, and I still got to do the physical check. Looked at the VBM, interested. Went up with my brother, we both said we're not going to buy this one when we're there. We're going to look at it and keep going looking at it. But in the end, he decided, this is going to save us money, and he signed up on the day, to be fair. And it was after we visited all the trade shows, saw what was out there. So, what do we have? We've got, in our estate, we have 2 original pack dispensing robots, one which is an ARX, and two VBMs, to be fair. So we started off with one VBM, but then we were also doing biodose and things like that. When biodose went bust or belly up, or whatever you want to call it, we decided we didn't want to go and look at the new models like the Medinoxes or anything like that. We just wanted to make it cheaper and more efficient. So the amount of patients we had on, we just said, right, we're going down to just get another VBM and put the work through that. So it actually fitted in really well with us because I didn't have to increase I had to increase by one member of staff, to be fair. I didn't have to go and put another pharmacist in there, into the unit, and it worked really well for us. And as I said, the main reason we went down to this filling process is purely for the fact that I was sick and tired of seeing my staff in the back, not looking after the patients. They just kept on thinking the green script, or the blister pad is their patient. They weren't thinking about the people walking through the door. And that's when your nominations start getting affected. You know, people walk in, they don't get the service that they want, or they don't get upsold in our case. We don't upsell them into a different service or into a private service. And that's where we start losing people. And we've got a massive social media campaign going on, getting people to come into our stores. But then they were coming in, seeing what's going on, and they were walking out because they weren't getting the service. So we wanted to change that around as well. So yeah, I don't know if most of you guys would have seen the VBM. I think some of you have got the VBM as well. So it's a good piece of kit, quite compact. Does what it says on the box, to be fair. And it, how can I say? The only challenge I'd say with this particular machine at the moment is getting hold of the medications, to be fair, for the cartridges. But if you do your stock management really well and you buy in advance, you'll be ahead of the game. And it's about people working together as groups and organisations to make sure you get the best deals and buy together. So you get, and trying to get pots. That's the one I'm trying to work with at the moment. But it has reduced human errors. And it's the most simplest process in that you're taking the tray and you're putting it straight in. You're not having to carry things around or put them into separate cars or anything like that. But the most, risk of embarrassing technologies, So when we went to robotics, my manager decided, right, we're going to do it this way. I said, it's not going to work that way. You can't decide how you're going to run a machine until you start running the machine. You can't create the process before the machine comes in. So you have to change your processes and you have to change the way you work. You cannot rely on what you've always done for the last 5 years or 6 years. You have to actually start that journey before. So for example, you've got to get your branches ready in a situation where everyone is sending their messages exactly correctly. They're doing their processes exactly the same way for creating the backing sheets, creating the electronic messages to send to locations. And when you do consider to move to hub and spoke, you have to literally be saying to everyone, there is a change process in place and you have to be able to embrace it. You can't continue working the way you were working, you need to change. We had pushback from one of our branches, alendronic acid, which is a once-weekly tablet. They turned around and said, oh, we've got 10 patients on it. I said, sorry, you'll have to do those blisters in branches. Straight away they went to the surgery and they said, look, you need to give us, change it. We can't put this in the blister anymore. And, something that was not possible was possible after that. So we need to make sure that the branches are on board with what we're doing, because anything which changes the process actually slows you down. It actually creates the blister slower. So, and it's all about production time for us. Anything to save a second makes those trays go much better for us. Filling the packs more efficiently. So we're producing up to 40 packs per hour for our 14 branches. The check-in process is a lot quicker. We are looking at different ways of, how can I say? We're trying to look at new ways of now saving time. And that's the key. Is everything is, even at this point, is still a learning for us. So how do you make it faster? How do you can get to 40 packs 40 packs one day, you may get to 30 packs another day, it just depends on how it's all going. But it's taking that pharmacist to check the processes and go through it But across our 16 branches, for our pharmacists who work in the branches, we've been able to upskill them more into services. So like the flu vaccination services right now, good to say September was really good. We did 3,500 jabs. Last month we did 2,500 or something like that. So it's getting those jabs in, and that's where the money's going to come from. And then the private services from the other kind of patient access apps and all these kind of other services. And also, lucky to say, I'm having the letters from the GPHC to say errors have occurred in our blister packs, which I was getting before. So, staffing. We have 5 members in the team. And to be fair, I want to actually reduce that down to 4. And the processes to reduce that down to 4 would be things like the biggest parts of blister packs making at the moment is not actual blister packs. It's more to do with things like the leaflets, which is a massive piece. It takes, we did a time study on it. It takes one person a minute to pick a leaflet per pack, or it takes another person 40 seconds, or it takes another person 20 seconds per pack. And it's trying to reduce that time down to actually say, do we really need to give leaflets, and how do we change systems, and how do we change mindsets to say, nationally, or even with organisations to say, we don't really need to do that. And deblistering. Deblistering is a key part. So everything we do is all about trying to save time now. And we do a service for a local hospital where we do their discharge prescriptions, so blister packs for their hospital. The way that particular service works, we have 3 SLAs with them. We have a 30-minute, an hour, and a 3-hour SLA. And we were only able to get that because of the way we do our robotics and how close it is to the hospital. And to be fair, they love it, and it's actually a very lucrative service because we get the patients out of the hospital a lot quicker than they would be able to do it internally, and they're no good at doing that. So we've been able to, with our robotic, create private contracts from that. And I think we've got another hospital which is going to go on board soon, so which is, again, in London. So that will be a 3-hour service. But to give you an example, the dispensing fee for that particular service is £20 plus per blister pack. And we're only giving 1 blister pack. So it's not too bad. The PGC side of it, I can say we've developed quite well. As I said about the flu service, we've done really well with the flu service, but also with the private PGDs. Has anybody heard of the Patient Access Pro app? Yeah? No? So yeah, so for example, it's a new app which Patient Access have done where they direct people into your pharmacies. So you can book in for any type of service. So you can book in for a flu jab, or you could book in for a Men-B jab, or you could book in for a chlamydia screen. So through that, last month I think our turnover was 1,200. So it's new revenue which was not there before, but our staff have been able to deliver those services because they're not too busy checking the blister packs. Yeah. It has reduced costs, to be fair, to make our blister packs. We worked out previously that our blister packs were costing us about £15 odd per pack, £15 to £20 to make it, if you actually account for all the costs in the pharmacist's time and everything. But now we're down to about £8.50 to £9. And the most expensive this thing is £10.50. And the next steps. We've started redesigning our staff profile because we've been able to get rid of our second pharmacists that were in the branches, improve service delivery, focus on more patient engagements, talking to people. I think that's the key. If we actually spend more time with them, actually understanding our patients and their needs, we're actually able to provide a better service. And it's about the counter sales as well, because we've been able to increase our counter sales by about 14% across the group by upselling and spending more time talking to patients and giving them confidence rather than that quick conversation because I've got to get back and do a blister pack or get back into that side. The next steps for us also on that, which I haven't mentioned, is also the hub and spoke side of it for our full pack dispensing. And I think that's the next step which we need to look at of how do you create a model for a whole packs to take work away from branches.